All right, Kurt, thanks for joining me here. Today we are going to go back and do our Advanced Features 1 session from the conference because we didn't record it.
Yep.
You good to go?
Yeah, ready.
All right, let's have at it. So, the learning points for the session are that methods are a powerful way of representing knowledge, right? Methods can be assessed just like basic CAPEX. Not everybody realizes that. Methods promote lean and agile, and we're going to make a very specific case for that. It's not just a nice thing to say. We're going to talk about why it's very real that it does that, and that methods are awesome. Sound good?
Yep.
That's
the important point.
That is the important point. Methods are awesome. Let's proceed. Okay. Use a method. When, right? People always ask us kind of primary question. You know, they're used to basic type knowledge packets, KPACs,
Yep.
But they need to know when a method KPAC would apply. And we generally give these 2 points as the guidelines. Any place where a key decision or calculation needs to be robust, consistent, or auditable, right? A lot of times, very important calculations need to be auditable. Where was that calculation made? Was it made by whom? How was it made? What were the variables used? And the same thing for a decision. And a method does that very, very well. Kurt is nodding his head.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
agree.
Okay.
I'm on board.
You're on board. Good. A work process must, or second, anywhere where a work process must be visible, shared, and be collaborative or agile. So when you're following a process, a method's a good place. So either you're following a process or you need to have an auditable, consistent process or calculation. Use a method because methods are cool. All right, let's move on. Okay, Kurt, thanks for bringing us over to the Auros planning method. So we use, Auros Knowledge Systems use methods to define our process, and we thought this would be a good spot for people just to get a basic idea what a method looks like and what it can be used from a planning standpoint. So here we have a method that is our planning phase of our software development factory, and the different steps that we take and key gateways and milestones that we go through to get a fully planned software release and improve that process to get better with that process for each and every release. Okay, Kurt, so now that we've seen a method, let's take a look at actually how they can be authored, created. It's pretty easy, drag and drop. And let's, instead of creating a method knowledge packet that does process, let's kind of do a decision one and talk about a decision model using a method.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Take it away, Kurt. All right, so you've gone to create KPAC, and you're choosing the method basic core template, but we could build more customized templates on top of this core template. We're starting with the core template here. And the initial view looks very much like anytime you're creating a knowledge packet. So Kurt is putting in some text for a title. And we're not going to go over the basics of creating a basic KPAC. We're just concerned with the method part. So let's open up the method editor. And we have a basic method canvas to start with. So we then go to a shape palette, and we start drawing out our decision. Pretty cool, pretty simple and straightforward. We got 2 steps now, or nodes. Nodes are steps. We're going to go to a decision point. We're going to have some branching logic. And now Kurt has completed a basic decision. So we're going to open up the editor for we call it a step editor. So one of the nodes are steps. We're just going to make it a simple step with a step name. We're going to add, let's add a picture. Yeah, let's add a picture. So we're going to add a picture to the step. So these steps can be fully annotated with sound or video, or in this case, an image. And then Okay, so now we go to the decision point, make this as a decision, call this decision. Yep, and let's talk about the two output branches for this decision. This is the result of output 1, and this would be a result output 2. So Kurt, can we pretty this up? Can we align it? Can we make it look nice real quick?
Yeah, no problem.
There we go. That looks nice. Align those two. That sounds good. All right, let's zoom in a bit. Now let's talk about making this an auditable model, okay? And to do that, we need to model the decision a bit. So we've got two steps coming into a decision, and now here the decision has some what we call branching logic, and it uses the Auros method called the value table to construct the model. So basically we have a question or a criteria, or what is the decision we're making? And here we're asking, is there success? We're making this a very basic kind of model. This can be much more sophisticated, but just to get the point across, we're making it as simple as possible. So there's success, there's yes or no, and based on the success in this step, we're going to output the user to output 1 or output 2. Fantastic. Now we've actually created an executable model of a decision that when it's assessed in an assessment will be tracked, right? And we know who did it, what the answers to the questions were, when it was done, a completely auditable decision. So Kurt is self-publishing here. And Kurt, let's take a look. Can we go to Smart Tiles? And let's look at your recent activity. And you should have just created a KPAC. You did. Okay, so here is the method that Kurt just created. And now let's see what it would be like for an end user to actually work and record the decision. So we have the first step, and it has the image annotation that we had. We're going to mark it complete. Move on to second step. We'll just mark it complete. And we're on to our decision that we can now begin to track. And here we were asked if there was success. We record our answer. And the user of this method is now instructed to move to output state 1 versus output state 2. And the decision process is being conveyed. It's been tracked. And the user and when and the variables are all managed behind the scenes, and it is completely auditable. But the point of this exercise, Kurt, was just to show a basic method, a simple decision model, how easy it is to create it, and how easy it is for another user to execute it.
Yep.
Appreciate your help there.
Nope.
So the first method we just did was a kind of a decision model, or it could have been a calculation model. But now we're going to go to the other style, which is where a method is going to be created to allow teams of people to follow and track and collaborate around a process. Okay, so Kurt has brought up a very simple process that's been authored already, and it's represented as a series of steps, linear. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to progress through 3 methods, Kurt?
Yep.
3, each one adding a little bit more complexity to the process. Okay, so we have this linear process, and it represents a typical kind of process phase gate or typical kind of series of steps in a process that you might encounter every day. Here we have initiating as a step, then planning as a step, then execution as a step, and then closing. So similar to the decision model that we just created and went through, here we're going to look at initiating first and show that we can manually attest for its being completed, and we mark it complete, and that is being recorded, and any team member that also accessed this method sees that we've completed that step, and we're on to the planning step. And in the planning step, we now can have a model or a data collection step And instead of saying, yes, we completed, it's actually asking a very specific question. In this case, did you complete it? But it could be any kind of question about variables, KPIs, series of KPIs. Here we're just going to say yes. And the difference here is that the model is going to, the model, the difference here is that when we show completion through criteria, the system then evaluates conformance. So the criteria for the planning step was met. It was just one simple criteria, but it could be many other things. And that then produces the visual cue of the green halo that it was not only complete, but complete with conformance, right? So we've elevated the complexity slightly by introducing this model into the step rather than simply right-click complete. And if we move on to the execution step, instead of having a question being answered here, we're putting in more or less a KPI type variable. And so the execution percent complete is 25. If we evaluate that, well, that is not complete or incomplete, but it is non-conforming relative to the decision model that's been placed into this step. And that's indicated by the red halo. So if we, as a team, were able to adjust or improve our KPI metric, and now we're at 98% complete, it turns green. And again, the model behind the scenes is completely just a KPAC, so it could be any kind of model you want with any threshold of conformance. And now we're at a green stage, and now we can move on to the next stage. And it's closing complete. We attest to that, and the model then indicates conformance to the process. As a team, we now can look at all the steps, understand where we are. We can audit how the decisions were made, what were the KPIs, who did them, and at what dates were they completed. That's all captured as part of using a method to define process. But just as importantly is that we can take these methods of process and adjust them over time as we learn about what are better ways to do the process. So Kurt, let's move up to the next level of sophistication. We've learned a little bit about our process, and we can adjust this process now to include elements of timing, right? We've learned a little bit about where we want and how and when we want to finish these steps. So these flags we call checkpoints, and these checkpoints are just an addition into the logical model of the process itself. You drag and drop them into the map, just the way we did with the decision model. But we can encode value tables that decide whether these are, how these dates relate to one another. And here we've done that. So Kurt, if we look at the first checkpoint, it had a planned date of the 13th, and it was actual the 12th. And that is a conforming milestone. The status is schedule met. And if we move to the next one, it has a orangish visual indicator. It was supposed to be done on the 17th. It was done on the 18th, so it's complete but schedule missed. And if we go to the next indicator of checkpoint, we've got a date that we're supposed to have it completed, but there's actually no date yet. We have not yet completed, so we've got an overdue checkpoint. And if we move to yet the next checkpoint, we see that it doesn't have a planned or actual, so it's grayed. So it's still yet to be determined. It may be an offset of the completion date of the last one, so it doesn't know what its planned date is yet. The point here really is that the timing is smart. The timing is interactive. The timing is a part of the logical model of the process. And as a team, we now can have an easy mechanism to share and understand the plan. As a company, we have a process by which we can adjust the process as we learn how our process should work to tune it. And certainly we have all the reports like our checkpoint count report, where we can understand how well projects are doing and evaluate risk based on timing with these models. Kurt is nodding his head, just so everybody knows. Okay, so Kurt, what's next? We're going to go to the next level of sophistication.
Nope, so I think on this one, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the KPAC sets and how knowledge can be delivered into the process.
Yes, of course. Thank you. So in addition to adding the complexity or the ability to map timing and to track timing and to visualize timing and share it with others, we're also going to show you how the steps can be provisioned with knowledge from multiple stakeholders. So in this particular case, a KPAC set, has been attached by the author of the method to the step. And this set then gathers stakeholder wants, needs, requirements, do's, don'ts, lessons into the step, so that basically the step becomes self-annotating with lessons learned about how to do the process. So what we're going to do now is take that set, we're going to create an assessment so that we can track our completion of the work to be done within that step. So Kurt's done that, and the icon at the top shows us the assessments there. There were 5 knowledge packets that were provisioned into the step. Could be from multiple stakeholders, could be from one stakeholder, and we can see that each unit of work or evaluation has been completed. There's 5 of them, and they're all green. So that's a really powerful part of what a method is and how it works when it comes to process. So not only can you have the logical model of the process, but the steps in the process can be gathering lessons and standard work across multiple stakeholders in the process, and the team can evaluate across multiple workers who are doing this work and understand the completion of that work within the step. And we can visualize it, track it, know when it's completed, who, when, and we can start to use that data for process improvement and data analytics. Kurt, did I miss anything there?
Nope, now you're good.
Okay, so let's move on to the next level. And here, it's actually not that big of a step in terms of more function, but we're just introducing a nonlinear model where here there's a feedback loop set into the process where a decision about risk forces the team to go back into a different set of work. And that's represented by the loop back after risk identified showstopper.
Yep, so one of the main things we wanted to look at here too was the timing, and now how the timing can be built off of other checkpoints.
Okay, so show us that. So we're going to go to this final checkpoint, and it's just showing the logical model of the timing is showing that the project kickoff is scheduled as an offset of 30 days from the project planning start. And this is a simple offset. We do a lot of different interesting things with offsets in both directions. And it's a way that a team could ensure that their process is adjusted as things change within the process, or as other dates change within the process, the dates can adjust based on a logical model relative to other checkpoints in the process. Okay, so one of the points we wanted to make here, Kurt, that we've learned in using this technology on our own business processes is that while it was good to show these 3 different methods to show how complexity can be built up, how capability can be built up, it's also important to note that we also suggest to our customers that it's a good way to evolve a process. Meaning, start with the simplest form of the process, 4 blocks that everybody can agree on, and start with that and go and use that simple process in production. And as parts and variances of the process are agreed, the team can go back to the process model and adjust them with very simple point and clicks and evolve the process. Because we all know, Kurt, right, that the process we like today isn't the process we want tomorrow. Yep. So to say we're going to go out and create our process and think that it's done is actually somewhat of an erroneous objective. What we really want to have is the capability to make minor agile adjustments over time such that we can continue to improve as a capability and adjust our processes as the environment, as our customers change us and change and our needs change. We need to be able to change that process, propagate that change quickly, and make everybody understand it quickly and adhere to that new process adjustment quickly to take advantage of that new process. So we went through these 3 stages, but we also, to help make it easy to understand what's happening, but it's also a very good way to initially deploy methods, is to start with very simple methods and evolve them as people start to understand and agree to the change, to the variance and needs and of variance within a process. Okay, so as promised, now we're going to talk about the agile part of this. Okay, so we were hinting at it throughout, but it's important to understand what agile really means and why Auros can help you get there, especially through method technology. Our conference was held on the 25th and 26th of September, and it happens on the 23rd of September. I read an article in Forbes magazine where they were talking about fake agile at the DoD. And they had a series of tests about what it really meant to be agile, because the DoD believes that agile can take costs out of the business of doing defense. And the requirement to do agile needs to be more than just a requirement. It needs to be a way of doing business. So these 6 points were presented as a means to understand whether agile, any particular project, was actually implementing agile. And we want to point you to one of the more, what we feel is one of the more important tests for agile, and it is this: can teams change their process based on what they learn? And I think it's missing. Can they change it, and can they promote and convey that change to all the team members efficiently? I think that's inherent in this. And so I think you can see if your processes rely on the method to track people's adherence to process, and the team knows how to adjust, and it's part of their objective to adjust the process so that other teams can benefit. The method KPAC is an ideal way to make the team agile in terms of being able to change the process and to effectively communicate and implement those small incremental process changes over time. So the learning points: methods are a powerful way of representing know-how. So, I mean, I think the flow chart, everybody understands flow charts are a good way of representing process. Method allows distributed teams to create executable versions of flow charts. The method can be assessed just like any basic knowledge packet. So the method can be an assessment, and once it is, all the tracking, the variables, the timing, all that data is being collected and visualized and shared across members of the assessment. The method allows teams to adjust their process in small incremental ways. That promotes, in a very significant and fundamental way, lean and agile. And of course, Kurt, I'm going to let you have this one.
Yeah, it's the most important point here. Methods are awesome.
That is it. All right. Hey, Kurt, I really appreciate you doing all the hard work on this one. Kurt did all the work in preparing for this. So thank you, Kurt. And hopefully people find this reenactment of the Advanced 1 session at the conference useful.